Well, let's start. To begin the episode, with an apology for not properly introducing our episode last week. I've spent some time considering what brought me to this place and acknowledge my privileges that kept me blind to the situation. And the really just the unabashed, uncut narcissism that would keep me focused on jumping right into what I wanted to say instead of introducing Inane Blather,
like we deserve,
as two people discussing topics, and you don't listen to them at all because they are
headstrong, stubborn, quibbling, self-centered, vindictive, obnoxious, hormonal, sexually preoccupied, evil, thieving, cross-dressing jerks.
And that's it. I'll never apologize for anything else again. So you got me.
If you were going to apologize for one thing, though, that's a big one. And, frankly, it did sort of disgust me that it took you so long to address this issue, that you waited till your next, where you're trying to make content out of it or something. It can't be like a real apology because you're just trying to capitalize on it. So,
every apology is content.
Rose has its thorn.
Every apology. The only reason people apologize for anything is for content. What do you think? People are doing it face to face? Ew. I can't imagine apologizing for my own actions in front of someone else without
them.
Yeah.
Directly,
unless they gave
editing.
me a few bucks, because then it's like you're doing content. I'm a professional. And I just mean that in a general sense. I'm a professional. The things that I do for money. It's funny, just thinking about introducing the show. I've been kind of messing around with our bio, things like just the quick little descriptions of the podcast. And recently I had changed our Twitter one to a real commie gender studies sociologist and her brother, the fake economist.
Oh boy, that puts a lot of pressure on me.
Anti-capitalist Antifas with soundboard jokes and huge R.M. Brown stands. Kind of, that sums it up, right?
Yeah.
You're the smart one, and that's why you only talk 20% of the time on the show.
Exactly, because we're representative of America.
Yes, yeah, it's a smart, educated woman being talked over, and
by a white guy.
When she's not being talked over, it's because she's just sitting in silence, dumbfounded by the things that are being mansplained to her. But
this actually reminds me that 80-20, you ever heard of the Pareto principle?
Of course I have. I'm a fake economist and I have a business degree, so yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I had some guy try to use that to me at the door the other day when I was, knocking on doors and talking about gun violence and stuff.
No way.
And about his is pretty much that criminal's gonna criminal,
Yeah.
And
that's why laws shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it was an interaction that has stuck with me still. It was last week, and it really annoyed me because of how much smarter I am than him, or just how he was just so condescending.
Smug. Dunning-Kruger. Yeah.
Did I talk about this last week? I can't remember if I told you that.
No, this is new to me.
Yeah, it was just an annoying interaction where it was if you take, one of the things he said was because we talk about suicide being a huge part of gun deaths and
jinx.
It's not like the gun is dying though.
Oh, you know what? That always threw me off. I kind of wondered why people even kept those statistics. I was like, did someone throw it in a barrel?
What does that even mean?
Someone buried it in the backyard and played taps, or something like that.
They've been known to.
Guns don't die.
They've been known to.
Instead, when you showed up to that door, you'd be like,
Wingus, dingus, listen up.
so
him and his 4-year-old
how
son.
could what is he using the Pareto principle for?
Well, it was just over the course of kind of our conversation because he was kind of like on board with the issues, sort of, and like, yeah, gun violence is an issue, but then coming at it from this like subversive right-wing perspective.
Explain to the people what you do. What are you doing? You're at someone's door, and this is for your job.
You do?
Yeah.
Yes. You do here.
Yeah, this isn't
a
political.
People.
I'm a people person. What the hell is wrong with you? But because this isn't for canvassing.
I'm an activist.
Yeah,
it
you're a
is
professional activist.
Yes, a human rights activist for Amnesty International and.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. It's really awesome.
I am someone. Yeah, I'm a professional activist, just like Ben Shapiro's worst nightmare or something. knocking on doors, wearing a yellow vest, being like, "Oh my gosh, so many kids are dying from guns."
Yeah.
We should
Hey, have you been reminded today that America has a gun problem? You fucking morons.
Yeah, it's number one cause of death for youth in America. It's like a gun death every 12 minutes. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I know stuff. So. Going and talking to him, knocked on his door, and he was from Australia, and so he was a white guy, and just like friendly and engaged.
Yeah,
in the
you're making sure we know he wasn't an Aboriginal Australian that you were that was condescendingly explaining the Pareto principle and how it relates to American gun violence. Okay, yeah. I'm on board. I get you.
It just kind of was like a conversation, give him the pitch and stuff, and he kind of was interrupting and being like, well, it's mental health. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's what like the bill we're talking about, trying to get passed. It's about the person behind the gun. It's not about gun control. Because he's like, England has a knife problem or whatever. People are getting hurt with knives.
Yeah, and isn't that preferred to a gun problem?
Okay, legit. The next time someone uses that example to me, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to stab you in the face. And I mean,
that's what you're going to say to them?
No. You're going to stab me in the face and I'm going to shoot you in the face. And I'm going to see who ends up more hurt. And also, I'm going to be standing down the block from you.
Yeah.
So we'll see who comes out on top in this situation. But also, it's like, okay, yeah. We're talking about gun control, whatever. This isn't about gun control. We're not talking about that.
Okay.
We're talking about
people control
violence prevention programs. That's what I'm telling him. Yeah, I'm telling him it's like about really like the foundational issues that cause this kind of crime and blah, blah, blah. And then he's pretty much like, he's getting into, well, have you heard of the Pareto principle? That he said 10% of the population, which I think it's 80-20 or whatever. But
that's usually the Pareto principle.
They're just going to commit crimes like.
Is he trying to round about 1350 you, pretty much? That's what I've been thinking since the beginning.
He's just saying like that's. I was like, well, I think we both know, crime is just like a symptom of poverty and conditions and, blah, 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 whatever.
And mental health.
He's like, well, you can be. Well, yeah, I mean, like all these other things that are like outlying things of it that are like systemic. And he's like, well, you can be poor and be moral. And I was like, okay, I think that we're just going to probably agree to disagree about this. Yeah, I was like, you're talking about individual actions and I'm talking about systemic change and societal responsibility, the things that really work. And I'm out here talking about things that will actually work. And if you want to get on board, you can check out our website. And then I left. Oh, and at one point, he did say he was like about suicides. That's where it kind of got.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, if people who want to kill themselves, if they don't have a gun, they're just going to throw themselves off a building or take some pills. And I'm like, well, at least they won't have a gun to shoot themselves with. So that seems like
did you let him know?
Because it's.
Did you let him know that most of the time when someone unsuccessfully makes an attempt on their life, I mean, it's not all the time, but they don't do so again. So it's like, it's
and
much
I think it's a lot
more
harder
easy
to have an
survive.
Unsuccessful attempt with a gun.
Yeah, exactly. And it's much more easy to survive suicide via overdose. Or even suicide, people try to hang themselves. It takes longer, things like that. You might stop yourself because you're crying and it gets all over your hands and then you can't tie the ropes right. And God, it pisses me off. No, it's people that survive suicide attempts. It makes a marked difference on your life. I have a good friend. We've alluded to him in the last episode and stuff, and you almost forget that like a decade ago or something, he attempted suicide. He slit his wrists and survived.
Trigger warning.
And what?
I said trigger warning. I guess we should have said that before.
Fuck you, liberal snowflakes. No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, true. Trigger warning. I'll usually joke about suicide, so that's just for the whole.
It's called a coping
series. But he did, and I remember like and ended up in the hospital and had those bandages around his arms for a little while, and it definitely never happened again. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the deal was. He was just my best friend and all. I don't know what was going on with him. We're guys,
that guy?
No. It's like, well, why did he do it? It's like, I don't even know his middle name. No. You've lived with him for 5 years.
Yeah.
No, but that's just an example. But that people, generally speaking, suicide people
Chinese
don't always suicide. Yeah. And and like myself, going through so much suicidal ideation for so long and only getting close to attempts, a couple times and not really going to the edge like that does a lot for preventing your eventual suicide. It's just a fact, and if I had a gun, like I'd be dead a long time ago. I always say that. I say it all. I bring it up in normal conversation all the time.
I wanted
if
to
I had
go
a
back
gun,
and knock
you
on
wouldn't
his
have
door.
to be talking to me right now, and we'd all be happier. No,
I wanted to go back and knock on his door and be like, and say that. And some people have said, people have bad interactions with people at the door, and that kind of attitude about like suicidal people can just like fuck off, kind of, can happen.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, exactly. If you would have had one at certain points,
it's
if
free
I would have
country.
really had some easier access to one, it's like,
yeah,
because they're incredibly deadly. There often is not going back with that.
Right.
Other things, you can have some damage, but you can survive. But a gun is really, really deadly.
Yeah, it's made to kill people, or seriously harm people. Yeah, so a rope can do a lot of things, but it's not made to hang yourself.
Yeah, Zach was like, that's why the military isn't like issuing like knives and stuff. I mean, they probably do, but you think about the guns that they get issued.
Yeah,
if that was the best way to hurt people,
that nowadays in the military, the bayonets, those are just for show. Okay, but it's
it just,
for those who don't know,
just reminded. I bet that.
No, you finish up.
Oh, I was just go ahead.
Dead air.
No, that's not the dead air bell. For those who don't know, as we're all talking about it and stuff, the Pareto principle, I hadn't realized since learning about it that it has been so bastardized and misused for whatever reason,
Right-wing
especially
propaganda.
by Jordan Peterson is the first time
Yes.
just recently that I'd heard someone misusing it like that, or just misapplying it, let alone he also misuses it.
Smart.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what this guy was doing.
But the Pareto principle, I learned about it in business school just because it's a valid a tool, like an analytical tool that you can use for risk management and problem solving and things like that. It's like often, if you're trying to prioritize risks or to prioritize issues that you're trying to solve, especially if you're doing like quality management, blah, 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 you could say, well, yeah, exactly. No. That was like my favorite class. It's like, well, going through the quality assurance process, it's you can use the Pareto principle to be like, okay, what are the priorities? Because 80% of our problems could be caused by just 20% of our processes, So it's like, and so that 20% is what you work on when it's like, I have all of these things that I could be working on, but take that top 20% because it will end up affecting 80% of your output or something. It's just, and it's not always, it's just a shorthand kind of thing, a way to prioritize things. It's based on, actual statistics that are just faulty. It's just the way that someone looked at it. The guy Pareto, some Italian
Pareto
loser, know. It's like, what's he got? He's dead. No one cares. But
Jordan Peterson cares.
He shot himself. No, he's like, well, according to the Pareto principle, actually, that was all in his suicide note. But but yeah, and then to apply it to anything other than those things, because that's where I learned it. So I'm like, applying it to anything else just seems strange. Like,
applying it to an entire population where you're straight up saying that 20% of the population will never, ever, ever be able to change, will be stuck in this. They have a low IQ. They have this and this and that, whatever. Jordan Peterson's point is.
Or relationships.
It's like biological essentialism to those people, making it so those people cannot change, will not change, and are a drag on society. And when you use that principle and then you start looking at crime statistics with either a willful or, not malicious misunderstanding of like why more people of color are incarcerated and arrested, blah, 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 all these kinds of things, then you can get really, really white supremacy really fast while sounding somewhat intellectual and stuff, because you're using, and that's exactly what this guy reminded me of. It was like a beautiful day. He had a cute home. He had a cute son who came out and talked to me, and he seemed like almost, it's like, yeah, okay, we're agreeing. This is kind of a cool, like this would be kind of like an intellectual conversation, with this person. And then just once he started saying that, I was like, oh my God, this is like
he's a JBP
he's like a right
guy.
Winger, and
probably,
man, yeah, you can just really tell these people, these white guys that just think that they're so smart because they can remember the term Pareto principle, misremember it, because I know that it's 80-20.
Yeah, but, it's the 80-20 rule is what we also 10, called it, but, it's the 80-20 rule. You don't even have to remember who Pareto is. Like I said, fuck that guy. No. But
he's dead.
Yeah. But hello. But yeah, either way,
not good.
And but yeah, that's we could probably get some good content, speaking of, out of your interactions with normal, quote unquote, normal people, since
like this one guy that's like, you have to pay attention to all the statistics, not just the pretty ones. You have to look at the black community and their contribution to
that same guy?
Crime and stuff. No, it was a different guy. That was.
I was just saying, there it is. There's 1350 right there.
No, that was a different guy, an old guy. But I mean, that's what this guy would have gotten down to. I think that's. I mean, whatever. I'm just some triggered white liberal, but it's like all of the bells are going off that's saying this is where this conversation will go. If I gave a little bit, if this was a different interaction, that I wasn't representing my work and I wanted to have like some kind of battle and like really argue with this person because my ego or whatever, then it would devolve to that. I feel like it totally would, because that's what those people use those statistics for. Pretty much that's the only way I've ever seen them used.
Just put the statistics aside. It's like, do you want more children to die or fewer? And yes, I said fewer. Good job. Good for me.
Good job.
But yeah, do you want fewer children to die or not? Let's start from there instead. And it's like, because this can be shown to alleviate all the fucking children that die from gun violence, but at the hands of mentally unwell or domestic abusers. Or if not, if you think like why would you disagree at that point? It's like, and like legitimately wondering in terms of just this straw man discussion that I'm having in my head, like, okay, person A, so now this will lead to fewer children dying. Why are you against it? Is it because, philosophical disagreement, some sort of Second Amendment thing? Is it some sort of biological essentialism thing where it's like people are going to die, whatever, or is it because you disagree that it will help? Okay. And if that's the case, then we have a discussion about it. And also it'd be one of the few times where legitimately my response would be like, all right, what's your idea? Don't even talk about it if you don't have an idea. You don't have to have an idea because you're not the legislator, but someone else has an idea of how to fix this fucking problem that we both know is a problem, and you don't. So it's like
that's kind of what I left that guy with, where I was like, I'm out here talking to people about things that do work, that do reduce the risk of gun violence, that are proven. That's what we do. We're a research organization, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just learn more about it because I know you're on board. That's why you're still talking, blah, blah, blah. But because it's like I am coming to you with, you have these arguments, but I'm out here like telling people the answer to that. Like you're saying these things won't work, and we're like,
do you have arguments or do you have ideas?
That's what I have.
That's our.
He ain't got nothing.
That's our motto here on Inane Blather. Ideas, not arguments, and it's a fucking lie. No. But that's what we should all be striving for. Competing ideas can be argued, but when one side is an idea and the other side is only an argument against it, what is our, what are we trying to do here? What is our goal? This conversation, what is the goal? I mean, let me change the subject, just because I'm running out of steam here, because your life is boring. No, I'm just kidding. But today was a day off for both of us. You said you had a nice, relaxing day.
I did.
Would you say that you're fine?
All day. I would say I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah. How are you?
It's great to be fine. And then you say, I agree with you. It's great to be fine. Okay, let's go from there. Let's see. Oh, yeah. One thing that can date this podcast, this episode, is another really sexy episode that wants to date it. No, that could really make this dated. Could be what happens tomorrow. Today's the first day of spring, folks.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I usually don't end up getting around to uploading the show for another 3 days because I'm stupid. I was like, I'm going to use this as a creative outlet and write a new piece of music every fucking week. I'm an idiot.
Everyone loves it.
Yeah. But so it takes me a little while. But tomorrow supposedly could be Trump being indicted and arrested, and which I have been putting off, saying it just sounds like all the other times. It sounds like a bunch of lib idiots with Ukraine flags in their screen names. Trump's gonna get arrested. It's like, you're just the fucking QAnon of the, not the left, the center. Yeah. But I guess the QAnon of the left would be on the right of the left. So they're in the center. But yeah, it's like how in The Simpsons, they are comfortably lower upper middle class. So, or no, upper lower middle class. Sorry. Yeah.
Nice,
they are upper lower middle class. But which is right where they are. But yeah, so we won't talk about it much because I don't want things to like be totally wrong. But it's funny because on Twitter, everyone's talking about the barricades that are being put up in front of the courthouse in New York, and yada yada. And Trump absolutely melted down,
losing his fucking mind.
Oh, what was did you see oh, that was unrelated, that's why, but it got brought up on Last Week Tonight, Trump's message for the farmers.
I did not
He
see
did like this video message. I need to find it. But and maybe second half of the show, maybe I'll find it. Because I did write down leading up to his potential arrest. I said someone good with AI deepfaking should make a fake video of Trump being forcibly arrested and get it viral beforehand just to see how MAGA flag humpers react to it and see if they riot, and
oh my God.
And you know what? There's all this discussion. You see right wingers like, we need to remain calm. Don't be like them. Don't riot and burn things down and stuff. And other people like, it's going to be civil war. And and they're putting up barricades for a reason. If this is what's going to happen, who knows? Maybe it's like they put up barricades because they're like, oh, by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell is good to go or something like that. Yeah. Like her and Julian Assange are going to walk out holding hands for some reason. But yeah, no. But yeah, the funny thing is, like, if they, I don't want to be a hypocrite on it. If they really feel that the problem is they're wrong, right? In feeling that it's not valid. He's a fucking criminal, like all of these high-level politicians are, but he's such a greasy, public criminal. Like, he just is. Like, I'm not one of those, I hate the whole, well, you guys are all about rule of law. He should follow the rules. Like, well, what about Biden? Well, if he's doing something wrong, he can get arrested too. It's like, no one cares at this point about this conversation, all right? Or rule of law or anything like that. It's just, he's a powerful person and who breaks the rules and hurts society. And so, of course, I don't mind one bit if he is arrested and has to testify on trial. Like, of course, But if only they were somewhat right about things, like, I really wouldn't care if they tried burning down buildings either. It's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe now you know how it feels, man. Like, when and it's like, I live in a podunk town. I didn't go to any fucking protests or anything like that where I am. But when us people, the correct people, are so upset about systemic police brutality all across the country, and just like a fucking police state gone wrong, is
there a police state gone right?
Burning down buildings, like destroying property, and not doing harm to other people unless they're cops, which is fine. But like doing harm to other people is totally. Not doing harm to other people and destroying property is so valid in my mind. Like, it's like, yeah, that
Especially
is a
like
form.
Corporation
that is
property.
A form of protest. All right. Like, if you're not going to listen to everything else that we've been screaming at you over and over and over again, maybe you'll listen when you lose money. That's the way it goes. And that's what property
like the
destruction
Boston Tea Party?
does. Yeah, exactly. Listening to Nixon Land, oh man, I was listening a lot more lately. And the campus stuff that was going on in like 1970 or after Cambodia was invaded, things like that. Stuff that was going on in campuses would make the people at BLM riots pee their pants. And people were doing it all the time. Like, campuses shut down across the country because, ROTC buildings were burned to the ground in multiple places. And when curfews were trying to be enforced and people would still say, no, we're having a demonstration, and the cops would show up, they would be pelted with rocks. And back then, like after the violent protests that would go on in the late 60s and stuff, like cops were afraid. Cops were afraid back then because they'd been like physically harmed. They were afraid of being sniped from rooftops, things like that.
Ooh.
Like you could force them back because people, and you look back on it, it's like, yeah, and who among us is looking back on that and being like, well, they were wrong. Those protesters were wrong, though. The Vietnam War was right. You look back on it, it's like, yeah, they were all right, too. All the anti-war protests were right. Just like how the anti-police state protests in 2020 were right. And I'm going way off the rails, and I can't remember what I was talking about before. But no matter what, I'm for you destroying property as a form of protest just equals destroying money, And if you're doing it right, I mean, there's a difference between burning down some immigrant family's dry cleaning business or burning down an ROTC building during the Vietnam War, or lighting a police station on fire, or smashing out cop car windows. There's a difference. There's a reason for this stuff. And of course, and nonviolent protest takes priority. Everything else we could do, even if they take priority, they should just also be done. It's all in addition to. But a riot is, what is it? The sound of the unheard, or whatever, one of those civil rights leaders said. I don't think that was Martin Luther King, was it? I mean, something like that.
No, I don't think so. But it's like a symptom. That's what it is. It's like places that are happy, they're not going to be like burning down targets and stuff. Like they wouldn't need to do that because they feel heard. That's what I think. It's like, oh, so you think, oh, this property damage. I'm like, who fucking cares about a broken window or some stolen merchandise?
People
I understand
are dead.
that. Yeah, it's like, and I understand that it is a huge stress. If you have a small business and stuff, this kind of stuff really does impact your life very directly. Like people with businesses and whatever, but they should not direct their anger towards these people doing any sort of rioting or protesting. It should be directed at the government, who has had such little effective action that this is the only way that people can make themselves heard.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's like if your windows got smashed out at a BLM protest, be mad at the police. Like, it's just, and it just sucks because then on my end, it's like, well, I'm just falling into, it doesn't matter, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. But it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm right and you're wrong. Like the police are a problem, Guns are a problem. I mean, these things are problems. And if you can't even agree on that, I don't care what you have to say. Like,
you're
or
wrong.
Like, it's not that I don't, or you need to learn. Like, you just haven't learned. Like, and you're making your opinion, you're creating your position on incomplete information. Is the nicest way to do it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, I wrote a guy named Aaron Space should open his own museum.
Nice. Or a gal.
Dead air.
So now, as an aside, since I have this Trump clip, I just thought it was really funny, and I wanted you to react to it.
Experience it.
But I kind of scrubbed forward to where it kind of gets funny here. But before we get to the myriad things I wanted to talk about, talk at you about. But I thought this was funny. If you see Last Week Tonight, you'll see this in his. It's not in the main story, so it's not on YouTube. But this was really funny.
And I made farmers
He's talking about
happy
farmers.
and rich again. And they're doing a fantastic job. And you know what? Someday it'll become time for them to leave this beautiful earth. And they'll
What
be
the
able to
fuck?
leave their farm without taxes
Yeah, the
to
death
their
tax.
children. I got rid of the death tax on farms so that when you do pass away, on the assumption that you love your children, you can leave it to them and they won't have to pay tax. But if you don't love your children so much, and there are some people that don't, and maybe deservedly so, it won't matter. Because frankly, you don't have to leave them anything. Thank you very much. Have fun.
Oh my God.
I
That's the
just
end of
thought
his speech?
That was so amazing. It's a little Trump thing that if you see it, like, here, let me get this unplugged here. If you see it, it's even worse because it's a produced thing by like his campaign, pretty much.
That's the
that he
clip they
put. I think he
chose?
put it out on Truth or something like that. But yeah. That's as soon as he's talking about, hey, I did all these deals for the farmers, get China off your back and give you all this money. But then he's like, if you love your children, if
don't
you
love
happen to
your
love
children, yeah.
love your children, and
people
I mean,
don't.
some people don't, and sometimes for good reason. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about,
I bet
man?
his. Imagine being his kid. Oh man. Oh boy.
Yeah. It's like all of the kids are like, wait, which one is that directed at? Eric's like,
Yeah,
it's not
all of
me.
you.
You know?
Yeah.
But
Oh
I'm
my
not the one with the
God.
coke problem, Don. Shut up, Eric.
Yeah. Like what? So what?
It's like a pre-produced, like what would be dry, like little campaign thing for the farmers. There's no way that's on the script. Like he has to be they have some bullet
Riffing?
points and he still riffs on it. Like he's so
And that's
fucking
his riff.
funny. Oh my God.
That's his riff. Is like, maybe you don't love your children, and you know what? Maybe they deserve that because kids suck. Am I right?
He's like, look at my fucking kids. They suck.
Yeah, that's how to appeal to quote unquote real Americans is by being
True.
like, you don't love your family, right?
Well, yeah, it's like for all those rich farmers, you don't have to pay the death tax anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The estate tax, they call it the death tax to give it a bad name.
sure.
Since, truly you believe in inherited aristocracy, if you're not against the death tax. But just like, there's just a farmer in his mind, someone who came up to him, tears streaming down his face, saying, "Sir, sir."
Oh my God.
No, but there's some farmer in his mind who they have a great, huge, successful farm and agriculture business, but their kid went off to fucking Brown and hates Trump,
Yeah.
or something like
For sure. That's definitely
It's like-
exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah, the farmer's out there listening to Dave Ramsey while he's on the combine, and Dave Ramsey is telling people, yeah, if your kid's a socialist, you don't have to leave them anything. They don't get
Yeah.
any part of the Ramsey fortune, as he calls it. Those are good old R.M. Brown videos.
Yeah, that sounds like
if anyone's interested.
good family values too, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like
if you're not walking
about-
with Christ, and if you're voting for Bernie Sanders, you don't get any of the family wealth.
Yeah, because that's what I built it up for, was because of some
Yeah.
political agenda.
I built
that
it up
I have.
so that
wasn't
it could
to-
just disappear. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, well, either you do, we should all just have money, wealth disappear back into the system, and make everyone work with their bootstraps, or you should just have oh man, I'm on a tangent binge right now, because what just came to mind. Oh, we weren't recording it before. We were talking about the defining woke lady.
yeah.
And one of the old tweets that got brought up was her literally doing like the Craig T. Nelson bit from 15 years ago, where it's just like, I grew up poor and we had Medicaid and food stamps, and now I'm
No.
successful and nobody helped me.
But she's being serious?
Yes, she's such an
Oh,
idiot.
my.
Talking about the wokeness lady.
Yes.
What?
Uh-huh. No, I was saying yes. I was thinking about wokeness and what we were talking about earlier.
Let's see. Well, I wrote, is it sepia or sepia?
Sepia, I think.
Sepia tone?
I
Sepia
think
tone.
so. I always say sepia.
Okay. Good. I'm glad. I'm going to take that off
Is
the
it?
list. Let's see.
Now I know. Yeah.
Let's see here. So, now, yeah, a lot of the debate right now about wokeness and,
What is
of
it?
course, yeah, what is it? Let's talk about it. Okay, I'm gonna put a little music
Let's
in
rap.
there. No, Kip, let's rap. Belay that remark.
They've been known to.
Oh my God, it's
I was
loud.
thinking that.
I switched from my phone to the tablet here because I'm so rich.
This is absolutely lit.
So right now the talk is about woke. What is woke? And of course, the online banter and as was highlighted on the show Rising, hosted by Brianna Joy Gray. Hold your applause. I'm sure everyone loves her so much. God, people
We're
really hate her.
Gray babies here.
But she's on the quote unquote left, But anyway, defining woke, it becomes like this argument because people insist on defining terms incorrectly, right? So the lady who wrote an entire fucking book about wokeness and how it's destroying society. And if anyone's seen today's, aka Monday, March 20th, RM Brown video vlog, as you all should, anyone who listens to this.
Yes. It's a requirement.
Yeah, then you'd know kind of some more of the ins and outs about this lady's book. It's just garbage. It's just anti-communist, anti-woke garbage, as you see all over the place, right? But then Brianna Joy Gray asked her, well, let's make sure we're on the same page here. Can you define what is woke or what is wokeness? And she just grew a ball sack just to trip over it on her way to trying to define what woke was. It was really embarrassing. It's really funny. And of course, what she ends up with was completely fucking wrong. Not even close. Not in the ballpark. Not even the same fucking sport, as they say in Pulp Fiction. But because of this, see, I kind of take a broad perspective, right, Natalie? I kind of
broad.
I like
you look
leaning
check out the
back.
broads.
Yeah, I'm like, if I was a fucking broad, how would I see this, huh? I'm gonna take a broad look at
From
this.
the kitchen, am I right?
Yeah, I wouldn't see this because my husband won't let me use a phone to watch YouTube. Yeah, I'm too busy. Being a fucking woman, whatever.
Whatever that entails, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. But it's just another example in this ongoing and never-ending cycle of the right co-opting and destroying and bastardizing these terms, words, even ideas, but mostly redefining these words while they're making their stance against what they are, right? And I had written here, I'm like, woke, fake news, grooming, and there are others too.
Yeah.
How do we keep right-wingers from destroying the meanings and definition of words and phrases to use for their own, argumentative benefits, their own propaganda? Because it's like, if you... And we were saying it before the show. This is a show. It's nationally syndicated, internationally syndicated. If you're going to... Okay, Natalie, what's the definition of woke? What does it mean to be woke?
Well, I would say
Webster's
give a little
Dictionary.
context.
No, I'm just kidding. No.
No, give a little context, like some more news did about the history of the term wokeness and it being a term that was used by like black leaders in the early 1900s. I want to say like in like the thing we were watching,
the
like
original
1921
coining
or something.
Of it.
Being like in Africa, it was like wake up Ethiopia, wake up Africa, and it was about
Marcus Garvey.
in the black community being aware of systemic racism. Stay woke is like be alert to these forms of oppression and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all started with. So you can see why the right wing would hate it because it's steeped in black history. So already that's a no-go for them. But something that is really so that's what when I think about wokeness, what I honestly think about is like the Enlightenment and what it means, like enlightenment and like being awakened and kind of like skepticism and critical thinking is what I think. That's what I think about it is like thinking about the things that are like in this case, like wokeness, like ways in which our society is not inclusive or equitable, and just being aware of different perspectives and things like that. It's like a very, obviously a broad term. I think of it as being progressive. I use it as shorthand sometimes when I'm like, in a good way.
But that's
I think
the
it's a
problem.
good thing if people are woke. But
when if it's used too broadly, like a lot of from the right, that's what they do is they just use woke as shorthand for progressivism, right? Which they're already against. So that means they're against wokeness. But, you know, when you actually ask them to define it, that's where it falls apart, of course. But then we've already lost because it's already being used as shorthand. And it's like the only reason they're
progressives.
Yeah, but it's like the reason that they're redefining it is because they can't, if you say, okay, being woke, and even disregarding how long ago Marcus Garvey was talking about it, you know, it's like, okay, but it became like a used slang term, you know, like I think of like Ferguson, you know, and kind of things where, you know, and it seemed back then, it seemed so obvious what it is. Like, and the first thing that comes to mind for me as just a fucking white person that's on the internet all the time, whatever, but is the, you know, is black parents having to have the talk, you know, to their kids about cops, right? So that's like, you know, you have to be aware that you're treated differently. You can be treated much differently in this society because you're black or something, you know, and there's systemic issues like policing and things like that that you have to be aware of. Don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on the fact that you're black in America, you know? But yeah, so when it came back and was more often used, it is, like you said, being aware of, you know, systemic oppression, especially those against the black community, right? And it can be for other things too, but it's like, so if we come back to that, you know, these right-wingers that are against that don't believe in systemic racism or don't believe that black people are over-policed, things like that, but they still feel like they publicly can't state that. So they have to reword it. Yeah. Like, I mean, they have to redefine it to be like, well, James Lindsay's going off about, it just means that it's someone who has critical consciousness. And you know what critical consciousness is? And he goes into some like deep academic thing that's related to critical theory, which of course means he can call people cultural Marxists all day. He's really bringing that shit back. And it's like, Yeah. I was like, oh, look out. Everyone who's following him and agreeing with that sure is. I saw cultural Marxism so many times the past couple days on Twitter. It's crazy. But it's like, because then, it's just like real-time straw man development. It's like they're just a straw man manufacturing facility where it's like, yeah, but we're against this. It's like, yeah, because what you defined is something different. Like, are you against the idea that minorities should be aware that they're treated differently?
Minorities are not treated differently.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the problem. You're just wrong at that point. But
because the racism is so, and misogyny. Like, I think of woke now. I don't really think of it as a bad thing. Obviously, it could be pejorative, but it's a cool shorthand to be like, yeah, like stay woke, like stay aware of what I think is like other people's perspectives and stuff, and like the ability to learn from them, and like, yeah, just alert to things, and which is what I'm like, even like the framing of it, woke, like enlightenment, and like all these things about
Open your fucking eyes.
Being critical. Yes, it's about being critical and skeptical, which skepticism is like a huge part of like science, which is what those guys on the right wing are always like, like whatever.
So they're using the Pareto principle.
Like, these kind of guys that.
No.
Yes, exactly. When it's like what these people are doing just in a social sense is like being skeptical and like learning more about our society and saying maybe we should do things differently, just like all these great classics, that these people are learning about. The big, people should be learning about these things in college. I'm like, but those things that they'd be learning, that these people were talking about, like critical thinking and logic and using these reasoning skills, that's what people are doing, and that's what's coming up. That's why they're woke.
Yeah.
That's what got them there, was actual these skills.
Like
so
learning.
It's just because these guys are dumb. Like,
yeah. that big, it's a real burr in their boots, a burr in their saddle or whatever.
Saddle?
Yeah. It's got a real Bill Burr in their porridge.
Bill Burr.
But yeah, so now taking that further out, right? Further outright. No. So we have these this keeps happening, right? So right now it's wokeness. Before that, even like grooming, where it's like redefining it. That's almost the opposite way now that I'm thinking about it.
Feminism, though, the way that they treat all these topics, like feminism and a misunderstanding.
Like, I'm not into feminism because feminism just means that men are bad. It's like, no, it doesn't. Like, sure, you can be against like anti-male discrimination or whatever you're talking about, against
hierarchies, like, which is what feminism is against.
It's like, but that's not what they're talking about. It's just this it's just weird how well it's like this straw man and how well it works. Like and now I'm thinking about it in real time, grooming is almost the opposite, where it's like because just renaming something that isn't grooming into grooming, because but then if you define grooming as it has been defined, it's like that's not what you're describing, that's not what you're applying this to, and it really, it's, that one's disgusting, because it's like kids have been groomed.
Some people
have
are
been sexually
groomers.
groomed. There are groomers. Like we they become canceled for good reason. You don't hear Virgil Texas on a Chapo anymore. And people have been groomed into that sort of thing. That's why we look down on like weirdo fundamentalists that marry 15-year-olds. Well, most of us do.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Unless you're
Roy
Tucker
Moore.
Carlson or something. Yeah, defending Warren Jeffs. But it's like, it just, I'm not going to say that it erases what these people have gone through, but it's like now you're just downplaying this stuff. You know?
Well, you're just using English wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what that word means.
Yeah, true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're talking about you got to speak the language
Speak
when
English.
you come here. How about you do it? Yeah, you first, bitch. No, but
yeah, I feel like
but
they
fake
just
news.
don't have any.
Fake news is what got to
yeah.
me. Where it's like that was when I was. I remember that was in 2016. And I was like, how did this happen so fast? That's not what fake news meant. Fake news, when it came out, was like a real phenomenon. It's kind of interesting, and it's crazy how people fell for it. And just, It was like really, I mean, stuff happened in 2012, but it was the first really online election in 2016. And it's like, like a real social media election, really. And fake news were legitimately fake stories by fake outlets created as like propaganda throughout the campaigns. Mm-hmm. And then it just became, it's like, the right wing just were able to just suck it up like some disgusting space bug and like reuse it to be like, fake news is when a real news outlet kind of gets something wrong once and retracts it or something, or you just get as dumb as Trump and just said something bad. And it's like, well, you're fake news. But even like not to that extreme, people just forgot what fake news actually was. It was news that was fake that people shared. Like, the number 2 most shared article on Facebook during the 2016 election was a complete fabrication. It was crazy about Hillary Clinton, of course. It's like she doesn't eat that many babies. Like it's only like one a year during her ritual at the summer solstice.
Routine.
And it's like, how do we? I mean, I'm not a social scientist. I'm just an economist, which is a social scientist. But economics is an art in my world.
Nice.
As in, you can't really tell if it's good or bad, it's
subjective,
all subjective. Yeah. Well, you may have lost your job, but look at the market. Look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
The thing about fake news, though, if you do take it to that extreme, it is interesting just how much they nothing matters to them. History, context, nuance, and like using that like lying press, fake news, like straight up what the Nazis exactly did. Yeah. Like saying straight up like, oh, this is fake news.
Enemy of the people.
Media is saying things that they don't. Yeah, like word for word, except Trump doesn't speak German. That's the only difference in what he was saying. So
it's like, well,
the couple times he said the United States wrong in his most recent
he
speeches.
did it recently.
I just think it's really funny.
I was like, yes.
Twice.
Oh man,
twice
I want him to
times
be
in
the
same
nominee
speech.
again, big time. Oh man, but. And you know what? You're talking about taking it to that extreme where you've completely lost the plot on the meanings of these words like Trump does. And it's like, you know what? But that is happening with woke too, where just recently they're talking about how Silicon Valley Bank collapsed because they were a woke bank. It's like, what are you even talking about anymore?
What does that even mean? A woke bank?
It's a fucking bank. And they have $230 billion in assets. And you're talking about them being a woke bank. Or $212
and to
billion.
Say, Joe Biden is too woke or whatever. It's like that man,
guys
you
always
really don't.
How can Sleepy Joe be woke? Huh? That dude is not awake. All right?
Nice. He's barely alive, let alone awake.
Yeah. And
I don't even care that he's a misogynist.
Because he's my president. Well, oh, man, the soundboard. I forgot the soundboards here. I was going to say earlier in the episode that your job is pretty much going door to door just as soon as people open it yelling,
I love Karl Marx.
And that's your job. And then you leave, you scatter a bunch of loose pamphlets and run away because you're agoraphobic. Yep. And you're like, and you have PTSD from trigger warning.
We actually don't have, we don't have any literature to hand out because of COVID and... to reduce our carbon footprint.
So you mean that isn't what you do at your job? Just running around yelling
I do
at
the
people?
first part.
I love Karl Marx.
And they're just like,
I pretty much
Natalie.
I do that in the office, and everyone's like, "Oh God, here comes more anti-capitalist."
Okay, Natalie.
Nonsense.
there we go, that's better.
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
Yeah. And then when people respond kindly, and you know what?
They've been known to.
It's a mix for a good day.
Yeah.
So then what do we do? So what do we... What can
About
you
what?
say you do here? What do we do for, like, to be able to keep, like, movement, like, ideas that have, like... You know what? There's another one. Defund the police. Ugh. Like,
He brought that up too. That guy, now that you said that, he brought that up about, defunding the police. And that's where it was like, oh my God. I was
Yeah.
literally biting my lip, wanting to be like, so where did the police get defunded again? I forget.
Yeah.
All
And
those
I'm
communities that lost their funding.
and I'm on the, the side that was definitely ahead of that as soon as that became kind of the slogan for
Refund.
Yes, I was like, this is such a bad verbiage.
I
Like,
use that
why
as
aren't
an
there any
example all the
leftist
time.
marketing experts, any political scientists on our side that are going to help us out here? But it's like, but even that, it's like it would have, no matter, its dubious effectiveness in getting that point across through the slogan was, it had a meaning, and it's very simple, but people just choose to not take it at its meaning, right? And say they're against defunding the police. It's like, because that means they just want to get rid of all the police departments. And if you want to defund the police, make sure you don't call the police when you get raped, murdered, and robbed. It's like,
Won't
we're
I
not
already have been
talking
raped,
about
murdered,
the
and
same
robbed?
thing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but
You what?
oh, that was loud. but yeah, I mean,
You're pooping the bed?
and
It all comes down to, again, you know what? People are not having good faith conversations. They're not
Yeah.
wanting to listen when activists are saying defund the police means it actually would be helpful for the police to not have so many duties that they're not trained for by
Duties.
their own admission. I know.
You're pooping the bed?
But that that they just don't have the skills, training, resources or whatever to effectively manage things in like a community based approach. They're like law enforcement, they're punitive and all these kinds of things. That's just not the way that they are set up to work.
Even
So
if
it's
you want to be
putting
some
them,
centrist,
if you care about the cops,
yes,
then it's like,
exactly. I was going to say,
Yeah.
and be like, I like these guys, or there are good apples in there, or whatever. It's like, so how about you make their job easier? How about you can make them feel proud about what they have to do, or something
Honestly,
like that.
I saw a cop the other day at Safeway. He was next to me at the self-checkout, and I was just overwhelmed by, like, I wanted to cry, feeling bad for him, thinking that, I mean, even though, just because I'm just so empathetic, but
Yeah, why'd you put an EM in front of that? I don't know.
how he was like I don't know, probably around our age, like in his 30s, like white
young.
guy.
He's very young.
That is like a person. That's someone's son.
Yeah.
Someone's friend, someone's maybe husband or whatever. That is a person. That it just made me feel. I just felt a lot of emotions, feeling like sad to think, that people do become cops for whatever kind of reasons. They want to help their community and stuff. And to know that people
Or because,
fucking
I mean,
hate you.
being a cop pays
man.
really well, too. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you
can't
have good
forget
benefits
that.
and different things. I mean, you have like a reason to go in there, and not everyone's like, I'm like, everyone's born good. Like, people are good, and they just are misinformed or ignorant or whatever. It just made me feel really bad for like the relationships that people have with people in their lives that are so strained because of the job they do, because of a systemic like injustice that is out of like individual control so much. And yeah, I don't know. I just was feeling.
In other words, you're not a good
sad
anarchist.
for that pig.
Okay,
Yeah.
sad for that.
Yeah,
fucking
I'm not a
hog.
good leftist.
No.
I'm a bootlicking cop lover, so I'm a racist.
Yeah.
And probably just a transphobe as well, just to cover all my bases.
Yes. And also, you are fake news. But
Dingus, listen up.
Nice.
I love Karl Marx.
Okay. So let's see. Well, I think we've made some good time. I have other things that I've written down. Nothing
got other
funny.
shows.
Nothing funny. Why is sales
else is
tax
new?
paid by the purchaser? They're not selling it. Why are they paying the sales tax? Pisses me off. That should be a purchasing tax.
Pisses me right off.
The person who sells
Yeah.
it should pay the sales tax. It should go on their taxes.
They do by collecting it
collecting
from
it.
you.
It should be illegal to charge a customer sales tax. It's like, fine, and you know what? If you want to just up your prices and not charge sales tax, do that, and then you pay your sales tax. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, they
then
don't
you let
do
the
sales
market
tax in some
decide,
places.
you know, so...
You know, I think it's interesting that a person this pathetic can also be a genius whose name will never die.
Thank you, ContraPoints. Well, as we say about every episode, or as we maybe feel at the very end, I'm always thinking...
That was, and I don't say this lightly, worse than 100 September 11th.
And that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So,
Nailed it.
yeah. Oh, and happy 20th birthday or anniversary to the war in Iraq.
Aww.
Iraq.
Cute.
Yeah.
It's all grown up.
Boy, even then, I was in high school. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What are we doing? This guy sucks. George W. Bush fucking sucks, man. It's like, I remember having a very scary time as a senior in high school, out on a weekend, stoned out of my mind, and interacting with a Marine who had come back after a tour or something. He was only so much older than I was.
Just a Marine from
and
Othello?
He was fucking scary. Yeah, because he was
I
all
know who you're
coked
talking
out
about.
and with a bag full of fucking AR-15s and shit like that. And I was like, I don't want to be here right now, man. Like, I don't.
Bye.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing well. So that's what Iraq did to people. Yeah, or even my good friend from just up the road who still definitely has PTSD and has, since we already covered the trigger warnings, has definitely attempted suicide because of it. So, and the VA does not treat them very well. But at least he did get help through the VA eventually, but it's not good. You know what?
Not good.
You know what I have to say about war?
Not good.
That's what I say about
What a take,
war.
yeah.
Well, not everyone agrees, so, but that's just because.
I love Karl Marx.
So.
You what?
I love Karl Marx.
You what?
I love Karl Marx.
And that'll be the end of this fucking episode.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Shout out to
Shout out
Brown.
Aaron Brown. Shout out the dozen listeners. Shout out Zach. And I love you.
I love you too. I love you.
And
I love Karl Marx.
I love Karl Marx.
Okay, Natalie.
Okay. All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.